Envision a village where infants were suffering from hunger because the princess had taken all the milk for her bath. However, she was not vain. She was under a curse. If water made contact with her skin, she would turn to dust. This is the tale of the girl composed of milk. The sun blazed fiercely in the village of Oza. It was so scorching that the dust on the ground felt like fire against bare feet. In Oza, water was a valuable resource, but milk was even more cherished. The cows of Oza were renowned for their milk, which was thick, creamy, and sweet. Mothers provided it to their infants to strengthen them, while elderly men consumed it to reminisce about their youth. Yet, for the past 3 months, no one in the village had savored even a single drop of milk. The children appeared frail, and the infants cried throughout the night. The cause was straightforward, yet it was also frightening. Princess Zuri, the daughter of the esteemed King Obi, had instituted a peculiar new decree. Each morning and evening, every bucket of milk from every cow in the village had to be delivered to the palace. If a farmer retained even a small cup for his family, the king's guards would arrive and confiscate his cows. The villagers murmured in the marketplace, claiming that Princess Zuri was cursed and wicked. However, the reality was that no one had seen Princess Zuri for an extended period. She remained confined in her lofty tower behind heavy wooden doors. Nia, a courageous 8-year-old girl, observed her mother extracting the last drops of milk from their family goat into a wooden bowl, barely enough to fill a spoon. Nia's younger brother, Kojo, sat in the dirt, his stomach growling with hunger. "Is that for Kojo?" Nia inquired, her eyes wide with hope. Her mother shook her head with sadness. "No, Nia. The guards are approaching. We must pour this into the king's barrel. If we fail to do so, they will imprison your father." Nia felt a fire ignite in her chest. It was unjust. Why should one girl require all the milk while the entire village starved? The following morning, the atmosphere in the village was heart-wrenching. It was not filled with the sounds of roosters crowing or people laughing. It was the sound of calves calling for their mothers. The young cows had been separated from their mothers to ensure that every drop of milk was reserved for the princess. Nia covered her ears as she made her way to the river to collect water. The noise made her heart feel heavy. She noticed the village elder, Papa Tund, sitting by the roadside. He appeared sad and weary. "Papa Tund," Nia said, taking a seat beside him, "why does the princess require so much milk? Does she consume it all?" Papa Tund glanced around to ensure no guards were eavesdropping. He leaned in closer to Nia. "They do not drink it, child. She bathes in it." Nia gasped. "She takes a bath in milk? That is wasteful. We are starving while she swims in our food." Papa Tund nodded slowly. "They say her skin is extremely sensitive. They claim that water burns her like fire, but it is peculiar, Nia. Very peculiar." Before this began, Zuri adored swimming in the river. She was a wild girl, always running in the rain. Now she fears water like a cat. Nia rose to her feet. Though she was small, she was determined. She gazed at the king's palace on the hill. It was large and white, gleaming in the sunlight. "I want to see her," Nia declared. "I want to ask her why she is doing this." Papa Tund gently grasped her arm. "Do not go there. The palace is now filled with secrets. The servants who enter do not emerge the same. They appear terrified, as if they have encountered a ghost." However, Nia disregarded the warnings. She had devised a plan. If she could not confront the guards, she would join them. Nia washed her face and donned her cleanest dress. Although it was old and had a small hole in the pocket, she smoothed it down to appear tidy. She ascended the steep hill towards the palace gates. 2 large guards with spears stood watch. They resembled giant stone statues. "What do you want, little ant?" one guard bellowed. His voice was deep and intimidating. Nia swallowed her fear and stood tall. "I am here to work," she replied. "I heard the head cook, Mama F, needs assistance carrying the heavy milk buckets." The guard laughed. "You? You are too small. You will drop the milk." "I am strong," Nia asserted. "And I possess small hands. I can clean the pots that the larger women cannot access." The guards exchanged glances. They were aware that Mama Fa was lamenting her aching back. "Very well," the guard grunted. "Proceed to the kitchen. But heed my words, little ant. Do not venture to the east wing. That is where Princess Zuri resides. If you are discovered there, you will never return home. Mia nodded swiftly and dashed inside. The palace was vast. The walls were adorned with vibrant colors depicting lions and elephants. However, the air had an unusual scent. It did not smell of flowers or food. It had a sour odor reminiscent of old milk left in the sun for too long. Nia located the kitchen. It was warm and bustling. Mama Effer was stirring a large pot of soup, wiping sweat from her brow. Upon seeing Nia, she did not smile. "Fetch that bucket," she commanded. "And do not spill a single drop. The princess is awaiting her delivery." The task was more challenging than Nia had anticipated. The buckets of milk were heavy, and the wooden handles pressed into her small hands. She had to transport them from the palace gates through the lengthy hallways to the base of the stairs leading to the east wing. There, the king's personal guards received the buckets. No ordinary servant was permitted to ascend those stairs. Nia observed as bucket after bucket vanished up the shadowy staircase. "How large is her bathtub?" Nia whispered to another servant girl named BC. BC appeared frightened. She was scrubbing the floor and did not raise her gaze. "Shua, do not inquire. Just work," she whispered back. Nia noticed that B's hands were trembling. "Have you seen the princess?" Nia asked softly. B stopped scrubbing. She glanced around and then leaned closer. "I saw her hand once," B whispered. She reached out to grab a towel. "It did not appear normal, Nia." "What do you mean?" Nia inquired. "Was it ill?" "It was white," Bissy replied, her eyes wide. "Not light skin. White like chalk. And it looked dry like aged wood." Before Mia could pose further questions, Mama EFF clapped her hands loudly. "Cease the gossiping. Additional milk has arrived. Move." Mia hurried to fetch the next bucket. However, her thoughts were racing. White as chalk, dry as wood. What was occurring with Princess Zuri? Mia resolved that she could not remain at the bottom of the stairs carrying buckets indefinitely. She needed to discover what lay at the top. That evening, the palace fell into silence. The king was engaged in a meeting with his generals, and the servants were resting in the courtyard. Mia feigned departure, but instead she slipped behind a large clay pot near the east wing stairs. She waited for the guards to change shifts. For a brief moment, the staircase was vacant. Nia removed her sandals to ensure her feet would make no sound on the cold stone. She ascended one step at a time. Her heart pounded so loudly that she feared the entire palace could hear it. Thump, 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 thump. At the top of the stairs, a long hallway awaited her, with a large door at the end. The door was intricately carved with beautiful patterns of fish and waves, yet it was firmly shut. Nia approached cautiously. She pressed her ear against the wood. She anticipated hearing splashing water or someone singing, but there was no splashing. Instead, a peculiar sound reached her ears. Crack, snap. It resembled the sound of someone breaking dry twigs. Then she heard a voice. It was Princess Zuri's voice, but it sounded hoarse and frail. "More. I require more." The voice rasped. "It is drying. It is disintegrating." Then came the voice of an elderly woman. Perhaps a nose. "We have exhausted all the milk, my child. The cows are weary. You must rest." "No," Zuri protested. "If I rest, I will disintegrate. Bring me more." Nia stifled a gasp with her hand. Disintegrate? What sort of illness could cause one to disintegrate? Nia hurried back down the stairs before the guards returned. Her heart raced with both fear and curiosity. The following day, the atmosphere in the palace was charged with tension. The king was bellowing. "What do you mean the cows are dry?" King Obi shouted. His voice reverberated through the walls. "My daughter requires the milk to survive. If the cows are not producing milk, obtain it from the goats. Should the goats also be dry, then acquire it from the sheep. I am indifferent to the matter." Nan was in the kitchen scrubbing bowls. Mama Fay appeared anxious. "This madness must come to an end," Mama Fay whispered to herself. "The spirits are displeased." Nia recognized her opportunity. "Mama F," she said with feigned innocence. "Why does the king claim she requires milk to survive? Is she consuming it?" Mama EFF sighed and regarded Nia. She perceived a clever girl who would not relent. "Nia, There are certain truths in this world that are forbidden to uncover. However, I will share this with you. 3 months prior, the princess passed away. Nia dropped the bowl she was cleaning, and it shattered on the floor. Passed away? But she is upstairs conversing. Mama shushed her. Be quiet. The king would not accept this reality. He ventured into the malevolent forest and struck a bargain. He resurrected her. Yet what returned is not entirely human. It requires the essence from the milk to remain intact. That is all I can disclose. Now tidy up this mess. Nia gathered the shattered clay fragments. Her hands trembled. Zuri was dead. Then who or what resided in that room? Nia understood she must witness the truth for herself. The village was enduring hardship for a specter. That night, Nia did not merely ascend the stairs. She scaled the ivy vines on the exterior of the palace wall. It was perilous. A single misstep could send her crashing onto the unforgiving stones below. Yet Nia was nimble. She climbed like a small monkey until she reached the window of the east wing. The window was obscured by heavy drapes, but a narrow opening remained. Nia clutched the stone ledge with her fingers and peered through the gap. The room within was illuminated by candles. At the center stood a large wooden tub brimming with thick white milk. Seated in the tub was Princess Zuri. Nia had to blink to confirm she was not dreaming. Zuri appeared radiant, her skin glowing and smooth. However, as Nia observed, Zuri raised her arm from the milk to retrieve a comb. The moment the air touched her arm, the skin began to desiccate immediately. It turned gray and fissured like parched earth in a drought. Zuri emitted a whimper of agony and swiftly submerged her arm back into the milk. Beneath the white liquid, her skin regained its smoothness. Nia felt a chill envelop her. The milk was not merely a bath. It was the adhesive that held Zuri's body intact. Without it, she would be reduced to mere dust and bones. The following morning, calamity ensued. A new servant boy, unaware of the established rules, was transporting a tray of water and fruit to the guards. He stumbled near the entrance of Zuri's chamber, causing the tray to slip from his grasp, and a cup of water splashed through the gap beneath the door and into the room. Instantly, a scream shattered the silence. It was a scream so piercing and dreadful that birds took flight from the palace roof. It burns! It burns! Zuri cried out in terror. Nia, concealed behind a pillar, watched in horror. The king rushed in, his robes billowing behind him. He burst into the room, and through the open doorway, Nia witnessed a ghastly scene. A droplet of water had made contact with Zuri's foot. Where the water had touched, the flesh had disintegrated, leaving only white bones exposed. Zuri was thrashing in the milk filled with dread. Seal the horror, the king bellowed. Fetch more milk. Quickly. The guard slammed the door shut, but Nia had seen enough. Water was the adversary. Milk represented life, yet water was pure. Water was the essence of truth. If water could dissolve the princess, it indicated that she was something unnatural, something that did not belong in the realm of the living. Nia dashed back to the kitchen, her thoughts racing. The village was perishing from thirst because the princess could not come into contact with water. It was a curse. 2 days later, the worst occurred. The cows ceased to produce milk entirely. They were too emaciated, too parched, and too exhausted. The farmers arrived at the palace gates with empty buckets, falling to their knees in supplication. King Obi, please, our cows have nothing left to offer. We are out of milk. The king's face turned a deep shade of purple with fury. Then bleed the cows, he commanded. Combine the blood with fat. My daughter must bathe. The villagers gasped in horror. This was an abomination. Nia realized she needed to act swiftly. She could not allow them to harm the animals. She recalled what Mama E had said regarding the agreement in the malevolent forest. Agreements with spirits invariably contained a loophole, a means to circumvent them. It was imperative for her to converse with the princess. Not the king but Zuri herself. Nia was convinced that the true Princess Zuri, the one who delighted in swimming in the river, would not wish for this anguish. Nia bided her time until the commotion of the empty buckets diverted the guard's attention. This time she did not sneak. She ascended the stairs with confidence. She was aware that the guards were downstairs shouting at the farmers. Upon reaching the door, she knocked. Rap rap. Who is it? Zuri's voice was faint, barely audible. I am Nia, she replied. I am a girl from the village. I bring a message from the river. A lengthy silence ensued. Then the lock clicked. Nia pushed the door open and entered. The room had a sour, oppressive odor. The tub was now half empty. Zuri was curled up at the bottom, enveloped in damp cloths, saturated with the last remnants of milk. She gazed up at Nia. Her face was lovely, yet tiny fissures were forming on her forehead, resembling a porcelain door fracturing. The river, Zuri inquired, her voice quaking. I long for the river. Does it still sing? It now sings sorrowful melodies, Nia stated courageously. Because the village is weeping. Princess, please look at me. Zuri turned her head. My brother is starving. The cows are perishing. Your father intends to slaughter them to keep you in this state. Nia gestured towards the tub. Is this existence? Remaining in a dim room, fearful of the air, fearful of the rain. Zuri examined her hands. The tips of her fingers were disintegrating into dust. I have died, Zuri murmured. Tears welled in her eyes, but they were thick and white like milk. I fell from the cliffs 3 months ago. My father, he could not let me go. He summoned me back. Yet this body is not mine. It is composed of dust and magic. It requires the milk to remain moist. If I dry out, I will disappear. But you are causing pain to everyone, Nia said gently. The Zuri who cherished the river would not wish to consume the village to survive. Suddenly, the door swung open. King Obeish stood there, gripping his sword tightly. He appeared wild and furious. Get away from her, Nia, he bellowed. He seized Nia by the arm and hurled her to the ground. You little rat. You are attempting to kill my daughter. He then turned to Zuri. Do not heed her, my love. I have dispatched men to the neighboring village. We will steal their cows. We will procure milk for you. You shall live forever. Zuri rose in the tub, milk dripping from her body. As the liquid receded, cracks began to rapidly spread across her skin, descending her neck and traversing her chest. She resembled a puzzle disintegrating. Father, stop! Zuri exclaimed, her voice now more assertive. Look at me. I am not your daughter. I am a monster consuming your people. No! The king cried, dropping his sword. He attempted to cover her with damp cloths. I can mend this. I can mend this. You cannot mend death, Papa, Zuri replied softly. She turned her gaze to Nia. You are courageous for coming here, little one. You spoke the truth when others lied to me. Zuri stepped out of the tub. The king screamed, No, you will disintegrate. Zuri advanced toward the balcony. The heavy curtains obscured the outside world. She extended a hand that was swiftly turning to bone and tore down the curtains. Outside, the sky was a dark gray. A massive storm had been gathering over Oza for days, poised to unleash its fury. Thunder rumbled like a colossal drum. Zuri, don't! The king pleaded, collapsing to his knees. The rain will destroy you. Zuri glanced back at her father. The rain will liberate me, she asserted. And it will save the village. She smiled at Nia, a crackled, broken smile, yet it was the most exquisite sight Nia had ever witnessed. Zuri stepped onto the balcony. The wind billowed her robes. The first drops of rain began to descend. Plip-plop. They struck her skin. Wherever a drop landed, she hissed and white mist rose. Yet she did not scream. Instead, she laughed, a joyful, liberated laugh. She spread her arms wide and gazed up at the sky. I am returning to the river, she shouted. The sky opened wide, and the rain poured down in a deluge. A torrential rain poured heavily. The king buried his face in his hands, weeping. Nia observed with wide eyes. As the water struck Zuri, she did not merely break. She disintegrated. She transformed into a billowing white mist that twirled in the rain. The mist enveloped the balcony once, caressed the king's head, and then ascended into the clouds. There was no skeleton, no one left behind, only the cleansing rain. Nia approached the king. He was in tears, but the storm was washing away the unpleasant odor of the milk. The room was filled with the scent of fresh earth and water. She is at peace now, Nia said softly. The king lifted his gaze. He appeared very old and weary, yet the madness had vanished from his eyes. He nodded slowly. She is liberated. The rain poured over the village of Oza for 3 days and 3 nights. It replenished the parched river. It filled the water containers. The grass turned green almost immediately. The cows drank the rainwater and regained their strength. Their milk became sweet and abundant once more. The king opened Gapana's gate and distributed all the stored grain to the starving families. He never requested milk again. Nia became a heroine in the village. They were uncertain about what transpired in the tower, but they recognized that she had summoned the rain. Occasionally, when Nia walked by the river, she would notice a swirl of white mist dancing on the water. She would smile and wave. She understood it was Princess Zuri swimming in the water she cherished, liberated from the heavy, sticky milk and free from the anguish of a life that was never meant to be. Years went by, and Nia matured into a wise woman and a leader in Oza. She imparted to her children the tale of the princess who bathed in milk. She taught them that one cannot cling to things that are destined to depart. She instructed them that nature maintains a balance, that death is an integral part of life, and that attempting to evade it only results in hunger and sorrow. The king governed with compassion until he passed away from old age. He was interred on the hill overlooking the river. On his grave, peculiar white flowers blossomed that had never been seen before. They had the fragrance of sweet milk and rain. In the village of Oza, whenever a child wept over a lost cherished item, the elders would gesture towards the river and advise, "Let it go, child." Similar to the white mist in the rain. If you grasp it too firmly, it will merely disintegrate into dust. However, if you release it, it becomes an eternal part of the world. The king attempted to outsmart death in order to save his daughter. Was he an unfit father or merely a desperate one? Please share your thoughts in the comments if you found this story enjoyable. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating tales of African folklore by Ray.